recording. And the album hasn't been released yet, right? Okay. What is the process right now? Where are you guys at with that?
Right now we're in the process of mastering at this point in time. We have to send all our tracks out to Sterling Sound in New York and let them go through their process. We just got it mixed, which took a couple of months. So.
Okay. And you guys are paying all out of pocket, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So it's. And this is the band's a supplemental. It's not your.
Yeah, it's all just supplemental income.
So.
We bootleg everything.
Yeah, it's really expensive to pay for a record. So if it's something you want to do, I recommend you find someone like Francis who's willing to do some male modeling on the side. That's really helpful. Just FYI.
It's fun stuff.
You guys have a big project coming up though with that too. What is your?
Oh yeah, we're doing something called Kickstarter. It's just a way to have our fans donate money. I mean, we figure they've flown us from Pennsylvania or from New York to Kansas before on an airplane. Why wouldn't they want to donate some money, right?
Right. I suppose the other ways you fly across the country.
I guess.
Can you tell us a little bit about Kickstarter? What is it?
Yeah, it's really just like an opportunity for fans to donate money. They can you set a goal for yourself and a time limit for yourself. And then if you make your goal, then they get products in return for it. Like you can put CDs or merchandise on there. You can put like free shows. It can be intangibles as well. And then yeah, you just wait the time and promote the crap out of it and hope that you get enough in order to meet your goal. And if you don't meet it, then you don't actually have to send out any of the merchandise or anything. So you can kind of like calculate that into your budget.
A lot of it's really cool because you can do something, really simple that makes a lot of sense. Like say if you donate. Like the very first, I think, level we're doing is at like $5 or something. We send you 3 of our new tracks that aren't out yet, so something that makes a lot of sense like that. Then it goes all the way up to one of the more expensive ones. I think Francis and I are selling ourselves in terms of you get to watch us wax our bodies.
They're like 2 of the hairiest men I've ever met in my life.
It's pretty awful.
It'll be incredibly painful.
It's the entertaining side.
But we'll take a video of it. We'll make it a big.
Yeah.
How much does it cost for the waxing?
Oh man, it's like $1,000. But everything's inclusive, so like if you pay $1,000, you get everything below it. You get the 3 tracks as well.
Yeah, you get 3 tracks with it.
Well, one of our some friends of ours, they're doing a very similar thing on Kickstarter, and one of theirs, I think that was $1,000. Was like, if you donated $1,000, the guy was going to get your name tattooed on him. So I was like, that's hardcore.
Yeah. Some really creative ideas out there.
Yeah.
You must really need $1,000
Yes.
or something.
So how do you feel, with the music industry nowadays versus back, just 10 years ago, where you have to get signed to even make money versus everything is just DIY now?
I don't know, it's a really weird thing. Like, it's really the wild, wild west of music. I mean, independent producers are making as much as some producers who are working with labels now, and everything is that way at this point in time. Bands are the same way. Like, you have bands like Quiet Drive who, they get paid 10, 15 grand to play a college show, and that's ridiculous,
Yeah.
in comparison to signed bands that are getting that much as well, so.
Yeah, it's interesting to me how the role of a label has really changed. So like initially, a label was, so important to you as a band. That was your holy grail because they offered you everything. Like at that point, that's when you could make a legitimate recording, get it out to a lot of people, tour, do like the whole 9 yards, make sure you're getting promoted. These days, there's a lot of like DIY even promotion you can do on high levels. So you can make your own record. You can put it on something like iTunes where it's accessible to lots of people. So a label these days, for the most part, is going to be, they have all the contacts to get you on big tours. So that's still something that they
even
really
that
are helpful with. But,
at this point in time, you have booking agents and you have management that works with those labels anyway, so they're already doing your part for you. So we have always approached everything from an independent perspective in the way that you can't plan on getting signed just like you can't plan on buying a car when you have no money. You can plan every day and say, I'm going to buy a car someday when I have money, I'm going to buy a car, but you don't know. Like, you need to actually make the plan to get money in the first place, and I guess this is my closest example because you're not shopping labels. Labels are shopping you for the most part. You can send CDs out to everybody, but even what it means to get signed at this point in time is totally different. Like, we've had plenty of friends get signed, and now they're living in their parents' basements. They're touring 3 weeks out of the year, and they're hoping to make enough money to pay their bills.
Yeah, it's interesting because your role as an artist, you just really switch sides of the table. Because, again, before, even, yeah, just as recently as 10 years ago, or even probably a little sooner, if a label comes to you and says, we'd really like to sign your act, we're going to give you this much up front, this much, this length of contract to do this and this and this, you as a band are like, oh my God, like that's awesome, like I have no choice. I don't care if I get 5 cents a record, I have to sign this deal, because there's such a big thing. Now, Brian's exactly right, there's so much you can do on your own that a label comes to you and they say, look, you could make us a lot of money, so what do we need to do to get you to do that for us? So it's been really interesting kind of change in that dichotomy.
Let me ask you this, do you guys want to be signed?
I think we definitely accept it if given the right circumstances, but we also have plans of our own, so there are certain conditions that we need to be met. I mean, now that we've booked 3.5 months of touring, we'd like to tour full time, so if a label was going to hinder us from touring full time, then we would not want to be signed to that label. It depends on which label and which deal and how much they're offering and what they're offering.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to make it sound like, being signed is like a hindrance. Like, it's still something that's very helpful, like I said, especially for touring. Like, there's a lot we can do on our own, like we went out for 3.5 months, but at the same time, a label is going to just be like, boom, you're on tour with these guys for this long, and you're like, sweet. So, like, I mean, a lot of that's really helpful. The promotion budget and contacts they have, as much as we can promote on our own, again, just that much easier, and you have that much more scope to deal with.
Yeah, even if we have the same budget, we don't have the machine, the working system that they've used now for 20, 30 years in order to put somebody from 100,000 or 10,000 records to 100,000, or from 100 records to 10,000, whatever it is. We just don't have that same capacity. So.
Okay. Any questions?
Yeah.
Yes. Adam?
You guys mentioned Quiet Drive, and I'm just wondering if you kind of consider yourself musically more connected with other scenes in the country, or if there's bands that you could kind of point to that were in town that sort of had some sort of musical touchstones or influence on what you guys are all about.
Say that again. Sorry, I'm having trouble hearing you.
He basically said,
correct me if I don't want to put words in your mouth, so correct me if I'm wrong, but I think he's saying, are there bands around here that we really identify with and have maybe even inspired us, or do we draw our inspiration and feel more at home in other areas, other scenes in the country?
More on a national level.
Yeah. I think one of the things we have really learned on our own is that, everything has to function logically, right? So, you can't expect to draw, you could draw 1,000 people here, but you can't expect to, without a national radio or a publicity deal or something that can give you a national audience, you can't expect to draw 1,000 people across the country, even if you can get 1,000 of your friends and family and fans and people who are devoted to you here. So how we've approached it is we've kind of based our theory on touring on having 10 cities that we're going to work on our draw from the bottom up, from 0 to whatever. And then from there build our national audience in those 10 cities, and then let that be our basis. So then we have those hubs, so to speak, as 10 hometowns, basically.
That's cool, but my question is more related to kind of stylistically.
Oh, stylistically?
You guys, you grew up kind of in the Twin Cities, but were your music interests, your influences outside of the Twin Cities, or were there bands here that you were like, cool, love what they're doing, that influence?
A big one for me growing up was this kind of funny story, but I had a friend who was a drummer in a band. I thought it was so cool at the time, and a couple of groups he played with in the early going that I thought were amazing. One of the old members is here today. Somerset, I thought was an awesome band, which is a band Claudio used to play in. Also, Small Towns Burn a Little Slower was a really, really good band, and Motion City Soundtrack I personally loved, and stylistically we're more probably not in the mold of any of those, I guess. We're kind of a Quiet Drive-ish type band, I guess.
I guess, but I think we all drew our influences from totally different places. Like, I grew up listening to Goo Goo Dolls and, 90s music. Like, when we decided to choose this genre, so to speak, it was because of the modern rock as it stands. Like, we decided we wanted to be a rock band, we decided we wanted to be a modern rock band, and we wanted to draw from popular modern rock influences, which has electronica backing, which has, influences from hip-hop, because, hip-hop was definitely, the big thing throughout all of 2000, and even now is still considered a huge thing. So, I don't know, stylistically we draw from a lot of different places. I don't think we're necessarily, I didn't even know about half these local bands until I started playing locally in this band, 2-3 years ago. So, I don't think that's where a lot of the influence comes from. I think it comes from a lot of different areas.
And I can tell you that Francis will say John Mayer and Michael Jackson.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I listen to a ton of Switchfoot. They're not from around here at all, or a lot of Death Cab for Cutie, a lot of, a lot of bands that are definitely not from here, and not even always in the same style. So.